ANZAC Day is very significant to us New Zealanders, though it may mean different things to all of us. We all come together and commemorate those who fought for us. This video comes as our recognition of those fallen in battle and our gratitude for the world they let us build despite the odds we face in present times. However, let this be a reminder about the unbreakable Kiwi spirit and how through some of our favourite traditions like the All Blacks ANZAC test, we can always persevere.
The 25th April marks the date that the Australian and New Zealand forces landed on the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey in 1915 during World War I. The fighting at Gallipoli lasted for several months before finally being abandoned as a lost cause. But not before nearly 3,000 New Zealanders were killed. So many of our young men were killed, it was said that the sea ran red. As a result of that tragedy and the months to follow, New Zealand suffered the highest casualty rate of any other nation per head of population in World War I. The Gallipoli campaign was a disaster, but from that defeat, the date 25th April 1915 meant the beginning of something else, a feeling that New Zealand was emerging as a young nation with its own unique identity. And Kiwis showed that they possessed a determination, loyalty and courage which astounded the world. Those who died at Gallipoli, which is now known as ANZAC Cove, have unmarked graves. Every year, tens of thousands of Kiwis and Australians make the pilgrimage to Gallipoli to honour the memory of the sacrifice of 3,000 New Zealanders.
After World War I, no one wanted another war to break out like that. But 20 years later, World War II broke out with even a greater loss of life. World War II started because Adolf Hitler dreamed of a big empire, first to take over Germany and then the rest of Europe. Once again, New Zealand came to the call of Britain, this time to stop the Nazis taking over Europe. Within 2 years of the start of the war, the Japanese forces invaded the Pacific, and suddenly the war seemed much closer to home. School children were told what to do if the Japanese forces should attack. Darwin in Australia was bombed, and a Japanese submarine was even sighted in the Hauraki Gulf.
The Second World War was the greatest conflict ever to engulf the world. It took the lives of 50 million people, including 1 in every 150 New Zealanders. The Kiwis fought on land, at sea, and in the air around the globe, including Egypt, Italy, Greece, Japan, and the Pacific. While the war was fought overseas, at home people did their bit too, fundraising and sending food parcels and clothes to soldiers overseas. Many people moved into the cities to take over jobs, which soldiers had once held, while women took over the running of farms or went into other wartime industries.
While many Māori were reluctant to become involved in World War I, World War II was different, especially with the Japanese intending to take over the Pacific area. Apirana Nata summed it up perfectly when he said, "We are of one house, and if our Pākehā brothers fall, we fall with them." How can we ever hold our heads up high to the question, where were you when New Zealand was at war? The Māori Battalion was organised on a tribal basis, and became known around the world for its fighting spirit and heroic deeds. Since World War II, New Zealand forces have fought in a number of conflicts, including Vietnam, Korea, and Malaya.
ANZAC remembers those who fought and died in World Wars I and II, and those who have served New Zealand in various arenas since. Korea, Vietnam, Malaysia, the Middle East, and Afghanistan, for example. Whatever we read about war in the history books, it was far, far worse than we could ever imagine. Those that were lucky enough to survive returned home with emotional scars that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Each ANZAC Day around New Zealand, young and old come together to remember the promise never to forget those who have given their lives. Poppies are a symbol of remembering all of those who have given their lives for their country in whatever arena. The poppy idea came about because poppies were the first sign of new life after the terrible trench warfare which had taken place in France during this war. Poppies are still worn as a sign of remembering those who have given their lives for our country. At the conclusion of each ANZAC service, the bugler plays the last post, the same as what is played in an army camp at the ending of a day. And then the Ode to the Fallen is read. The Ode is a poem written by an Englishman after hearing of the great losses of life in 1914. After the Ode is read, there is a minute's silence, after which the bugle is sounded again to signal the dawn of a new day.
To the ANZACs, for all your courage we thank you. For your complete faith in the task at hand, we thank you. For your unwavering devotion to New Zealand, we thank you. For the loss of your lives, we remain always grateful and rest assured that we, as the next generation, we shall remember.
E kore rātou e kaumātuatia. Pēnei i a tātou kua māhue nei. E kore hoki rātou e ngoikori. Ahakoa pēhea i ngā ahutanga o te wā. I te hekinga atu o te rā, tainoa ki te aranga mai i te ata. Ka maumahara tonu tātou ki a rātou.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.